Welcome to Trapping Ain't Dead, another day, another dollar. Peep game. It's your boy Munch. I'm here with none other than my guest, Melissa Hunter Davis.
Hola, everyone.
The editor, founder and editor of Sugarcane Magazine.
Yes.
And is it safe to say, we can say you curate the Black and Basel guide every year?
I do.
Is that the right word?
It is.
Yeah.
Especially this year. It's very curated.
Very curated.
Very
We're gonna get into
curated.
that. And
Yes.
then you're also the co-host of This Week in Caribbean Art and Culture.
Yes.
You know, I have to remember the
I can't believe that you have to remember that.
No, it's the art and culture because you know
Yes.
the way we do it on the well, full disclosure, I edit the podcast,
Yes.
I produce the podcast.
Yes.
So the thing about it is when we the acronym for it is TWICA.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I always have to remember the art and culture because
Yes.
I just put TWICA. So I've been telling myself I gotta remember that.
Yes.
So for everybody who don't know, tell the people about yourself, where you from, stuff like that.
I am from Gary, Indiana, from those who say the great state of Indiana, but no, I'm from Gary, Indiana, the great city of Gary, home to Michael Jackson, of course, the Jackson 5. They were from there as well, not just me. I moved here in 1995 to go to college, to go to Barry University. Mm-hmm. And I had every plan on leaving, but then, as I always do, I fell in love, and that gentleman didn't want to leave, so I decided to stick around, and I've been here for over 20 years. Yeah, I've been a resident for over 20 years now.
So you wanted to leave.
Absolutely.
Because that was going to be my next question. Is
Yes.
like, you know, going from Gary, Indiana to Miami. What
Yes.
was that about?
I went to Catholic school my entire life, from kindergarten through college. And when I was in high school, there was a book of colleges, Catholic colleges all around the country. And there was one in Miami. And I was like, wow, Miami has a Catholic university? And
What's that?
Barry University.
Oh, I learned that today. You know, I ain't know
Yeah, it's a
it was
Catholic university.
school.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up there. Full disclosure, there was this young man that I thought was really Gary Dourdan, the actor. You know who that is?
No.
That's Shaza from A Different World.
Okay, yeah.
He lived here. I'm so happy my mother's not here to hear this. So he lived here. And I saw in this magazine that he was living in Miami, and I was like, yo, when I get to Miami, I'm going to find this man. He now lives in Paris. I never found him. But that's one of the reasons why Shoshana don't listen to me. So Maya don't do what I do. But yes, that was one of the main drivers to me coming to Miami.
Because he was
here, and I was gonna find him, and we were gonna be together.
You was gonna kick it off.
Yes.
You was gonna do a city girl thing, huh?
Almost. Almost.
So what did you major in when you was at Barry?
Initially theater.
Okay.
And then I transferred to political science. At some point, I just thought that, maybe the arts is a dumb idea. I don't want to be poor. I want to make money. I don't need to study theater to do theater. Mm-hmm. I think I know what I need to know. I could just go out and do it and learn the rest of this out in the world like everyone else. So that was my major. And then by the time I finished my senior year, I realized I hate this. I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I want to be in the arts. I'll just figure this out.
So you always just wanted to be in the arts?
Yes.
And instead of poli-sci. But that makes sense, though, because a lot of people, all the different subject matter and content, like history behind theater and stage plays, that makes sense that somebody would want to go on the poli-sci to be safe.
I always loved politics, period. I loved politics and I loved history. So my mother had me late in life. So today, that would be a normal age. She had me at 32. Mm-hmm. But back then, unmarried, 32 was like old. She was an old woman in their eyes. Yeah. And so my grandparents were all older than me. I was raised by old people, and they did not watch cartoons. They did not watch fun shows. They watched the news. Mm-hmm. So I sat and watched the news with them all the time. So I knew what was going on in the world. I knew about different countries. I knew about wars. I watched documentaries. So I always loved history. I always loved politics. I was always intrigued by it. It's not that I didn't like it. I just knew that I wanted a life of creativity. Yeah. And being in this little box wasn't going to be it for me.
So moving forward a little bit to sugarcane.
Yes.
When did the idea for sugarcane come about?
So I was working at the Women's Park in South Dade, out there by FIU.
Yeah.
And I hated that job. and I didn't like the people that I was working with. And every day I just was miserable and talked to myself about how I hate this job. In the midst of all of this, they had asked me to do some research on some shows, actually to bring here to African Heritage.
Okay.
And I didn't get a chance to travel with them to New York to go see these shows, so I had to like just go online and find things. I thought it was weird that I couldn't find a place to find Black art or Black, theater. No, just one central spot. It didn't exist. And that was bizarre to me because at that point, this was like maybe 2004, 2005. So the internet was like strong. You could find anything online. You can find anything from like, music to porn. So why did we not think about doing art, and how come Black folks weren't doing it? Now, in Nigeria, there were some Nigerian sites that had things, but I couldn't find that here, anything that was US based. And that just was odd to me. And I would just constantly Google looking for something, and I never found it. So I said, I will do this. I will create this platform.
I know it wasn't easy. So talk about the grind a little bit. What was your first project with Under Sugarcane?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. So we did the website. So I initially wanted to be a magazine, for sure. And this was about 2005. The economy was starting to like fall off a cliff then. Yeah. So media companies weren't making money. They were closing down. They weren't getting advertising. And I was like, I can't put myself in a situation where I'm going to like start something to just lose real quick. So I was like, all right, this is just going to be an online platform. That's how we're going to do this. And so that was the goal. So we did the website. And then the lady who designed it got mad at me and took it down. And I couldn't get it back because she had all the files, and that took care of that. But I did not give it up. I didn't get rid of the domain. I spent years trying to figure out how to do my own website. And so finally I got a few dollars and was able to ask somebody to design a site for me. And she did it. And that's how we got started. And I just kept getting lucky finding designers. And at about 2016, I realized that even though doing a magazine was risky, I realized that there was a market for it, that people liked what I was doing, and that there was still nothing like this that existed, and that we can get this done. And so 2016, I made it a point to get started. So I started finding people, and I was able to assemble a group of folks to come on with me, and we got it done.
So that's the online.
Online and print.
So yes. I was going to ask you about the print, because I know you put out a couple issues, and usually one come out, this week, next week. So talk about the print journey, because the print ain't easy.
Print ain't easy. So we started the first issue in 2018. It was really rough. I was really lucky to have some good people around me at the time who were able to make some things happen. Having good friends was everything. So somebody got me into a program where I could get advertising dollars. Now, mind you, I couldn't get it until after I went to print. So I just sucked that up. But I did it. I got a little loan from somebody, and they covered me until I could get all that advertising dollars back. But, I was lucky to have some really great people. I had Ed King, who was with me. I had Dudley, who was with me. I just had great people who were able to just help. And we got it going. I was lucky enough to have good writers already from the online edition. So I was able to just go to them and say, hey, we're going to print. And I made it happen. And I made a ton of mistakes. I tried to run this like I was the Miami Herald. And so in one sense, it was good, right? Because you want to respect people who are doing good work for you. Yeah. But it's not realistic if everything that you have gets exhausted and you have to do all this again for that next issue.
Next issue, yeah.
But I can say that the sacrifices have been worth it. I have learned a lot. I can see where I've made mistakes. I'm actively trying to, correct, any mistakes and do new things. And I've made a name for myself. And it's difficult seeing that when you're behind the screen or you're kind of have your head down working all the time. Yeah. You don't realize how much of an impact you have until you finally kind of sit your head up and just go look around and talk to people and realize I'm in a foreign country and somebody knows who I am and they know the work, and then it changes your perspective. So it has worked out, but it was by no means easy, but it was worth it. It was worth it, but it was not easy at all. I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of time, personal issues that come up during this, some of it because of the work. But once you're finished with it and you can kind of look at, everything that you've done, you're like, okay, this sacrifice made way for this. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I think we had a sidebar conversation about this, but I think what it was during the pandemic, when it was Clubhouse.
Clubhouse was really good for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk about that experience.
So I found Clubhouse because of my daughter who's here, Shoshana. I was watching these two girls do a live on YouTube, and I walked away from the computer to go do something like in the kitchen. And my daughter said, your friends are still talking. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, those aren't my friends. It's a YouTube video. But okay. So I went back upstairs because I was going to turn it off. And I came upstairs just as they talked about Clubhouse. And then I went into the chat and said, what's Clubhouse? And they were like, oh, it's this platform. And they didn't go into detail. So I went online to find the app, downloaded it. Turns out somebody I knew was already a member. They let me in. And I took some time to kind of get around it, but we did our first this year in Black art.
Yeah.
And it was huge. The room was full. People who had heard of Sugarcane and didn't know who ran Sugarcane, all of a sudden were able to put name to face into the magazine. I found my audience. They were able to talk back to me in a way that they didn't do on Instagram, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Like social media is social, but they really weren't engaging in conversation. Yeah. But on Clubhouse, they did. So I knew about the impact, and I knew which we're going to talk about in a minute. I knew what they liked and what they didn't like, and it all made sense for me. Even though sometimes they kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but it all made sense, and I realized, okay, this was the feedback that I needed all this time.
Dope. So let's go to the guide a little bit.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say that's how we met, because we met years ago.
Yes.
But I know that's one of the main things, as I got older, Basel, you would call me for Art Basel all the time.
Yes.
Are you all right, so funny story. Are you a Basel person or a Basel person? Because, some people say Art Basel, some people say Art Basel.
It's actually, I think it's Art Basel.
Art Basel?
It's Basel, yes, because it's Basel, Switzerland.
Okay.
And it's named after the city in Switzerland where it started.
That's an interesting fact. Did y'all know that?
Yes. Yeah, that's the reason why, It's not basil like the herb. It's Basel because it was founded in Basel, Switzerland.
Okay. Now we settled the debate all together.
That's it, yes.
Basel, Switzerland is Art Basel.
Yes.
So when you first started this list, going back to how you started Sugarcane, was it out of the same kind of MO?
So in 2009, I took my now husband, then boyfriend, to Art Basel. I was like, hey, let's go. I think we got invited to a party, and then we hopped over to the convention center. And that's when it was nothing like it is now. It wasn't full. I don't even know if we had to do any special parking. I think we just kind of rolled up and walked in, people could park out in the front. It was very easy. There was barely anybody there. It was just a very nice, chill time. And I remember going in at the time saying that some people wouldn't know these are Black artists because you didn't see Black bodies. So there are people who may be looking at Black artists and not even realize it. And so let me come up with a guide to tell you who's here. But that was in 2019, and I was still trying to find Sugarcane's voice. So somebody else had done that in 2013 before I could get it done. And then I kind of stalked online for a while to see if they want to do it again, and they didn't. And that's when I hopped on and got it. That's really what happened. And I hopped on and got it done. And I feel like there's been 1,000 lists ever since. But and without fail. But it was important for me not only to know where to find Black art in the convention center, but also for people to realize that there's things going on around South Florida that they can go to. You don't have to stay on the beach. And I know that's asking too much for a lot of tourists, but there's things going on everywhere. You don't know what kind of gym you can find, and you can find good work. Yeah. You may not have access to all the New York artists that you think that you want to see, but if you really are, inquisitive and looking for something new, you can look around and find different things in the city.
Yeah, that's how I got involved. Because you would call me to do sound at different events. I remember we was in we was in Wynwood, but it was before Wynwood was Wynwood.
Yes, yes.
And I remember that, and I remember a few other events that we went to. I think I went to Prism early.
Yeah, you probably did Art Africa too.
I did Art Africa. Yeah.
But even outside of that, it was just really important for me to just make sure that we had a presence, you know? And so being there for those early events was like really important.
Yeah, because that was my introduction to Basel. So for everybody who may or may not be familiar with it,
Yes.
Can you kind of explain Art Basel from Art Miami being a fair and Art Week and all this different? Because there's a lot that goes on.
It is. So Art Miami was an art fair that was started. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't remember when this started, but it's a pretty old fair.
Like 1990 or something?
Might be the 90s.
Yeah.
But apparently a lot of wealthy people here didn't like the work that they saw. They wanted something more upscale. So a gentleman went to Europe one summer, he goes to Basel, Switzerland, and he goes to Art Basel, and he's blown away, and he's like, look, we need to have this in Miami. And he was able to successfully bring it here to Miami Beach. And even like a few years after it started, not that it wasn't popular, but you know, it was still kind of quiet, very much for people who were in the trade. Like, that's what you did.
Yeah.
By the time Samaya was born, so this painting is from 2007. So by 2006 or 7, you start to see huge crowds because I remember taking her out. It was cold during that time. And I had her in this little pink coat and we were walking around outside and she looked really cold and really annoyed that we had her walking around at night, all night, going from gallery to gallery. She was not happy until she went to Bayunga Kialawuka's gallery. And that's when she started to smile for the night. But
who actually designed this set, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bayunga. So that's when you start to see like really like big crowds. And it just kind of exploded. And then other fairs popped up and then locals wanted to jump in. And then I feel like Black folks weren't doing anything on a large scale until Art Africa, which is also a Bayunga Kialawuka in Neil Hall production. Yeah. So Bayunga thought of the idea, had a conversation with Neil, and once he did that, you really saw Black Miami activated in a way that it hadn't been activated before. Not that we weren't doing things. Bayunga did stuff. There was a Haitian brother whose name escapes me. He did stuff for years. There were things that went on here at African Heritage. There were smaller things, but I feel like Art Africa popped off for Black Miami and kicked everything off. So the reason why you have Soul Basel and the reason why you have Art of Black was because of Art Africa. Yeah.
Now, Art Africa, for people who don't know, was the old Red Rooster.
Yeah, so where Red Rooster used to be, and then actually behind that it was where they had the tent. Yeah. So what street is that? That's 3rd Avenue?
The 3rd Avenue, 10th Street. No, 2nd Avenue, 10th Street.
That's 2nd Avenue?
Yeah, 2nd.
No, it's 3rd. It was the other street. It was behind Red Rooster. Where the church is.
The church and Tribe.
Yes, right. So I think where Tribe is now, that empty lot was the first Art Africa.
Oh. Okay.
It was in a tent. And then I think it was still there because they did the tent and a container. And then they did it in the old Red Rooster. And then after Red Rooster, it moved across the street. And then we didn't get an Art Africa anymore after that. But it kicked off everybody else. Yeah. So all that we have was really, it started off with an idea in Bayunga's head.
And was Art Africa, like, talk about that exhibit, was it a lot of artists that was from here?
Absolutely.
Or was it like outside artists?
No, not at all. So the first one was very, very local. I think they just used their resources. There are plenty of Black artists here who could have shown their work. Mm-hmm. They didn't really need to go anywhere else. There might have been some folks from outside, but I doubt it. The second one, they did have an international presence. I think there was a group from Nigeria that came in. There were some folks from other parts of the country who came in. So it became a little bit more international and national after that time. And then all the other ones after that were all international artists.
So getting back to the list, how do you kind of like curate the list? Because I know before you used to it was more like I don't want to say like a directory, I guess.
It was.
It was more like a directory of sorts of like where you could find Black art. This year, it seems more curated to certain demographics. So how did you start to curate that?
There were a couple of things. One of the reasons why you always heard from me is because I was always looking for the events that I never heard about. Yeah. And so this year, I decided, well, if I haven't heard from them, either A, they're not doing anything, or B, maybe they're not interested in being a part of larger guys. Maybe they just want to talk to their audience. So I will allow them to talk to their audience. I'm not going to do any of this, rushing, driving myself crazy anymore.
Yeah.
Also, my audience, when I met that Clubhouse audience, they were very particular about what they wanted to see. There were certain things that they liked, and they told me, this is what we like, this is what we like, this is where we want to go. And so I gave them that. I did give them some extras, and I kind of mentioned in there, get in an Uber and go somewhere else. You do not have to stay within this little radius that you stay in. There's an Uber, there's a free bus. Go get in one of those and go see something else. And there's great work. You can go to Mocha in North Miami. That's not close to Miami Beach.
Yeah.
But you have Jameer Richmond-Edwards, amazing artist who is very grounded in Black culture and the Black culture that we grew up knowing about, like in the 2008s. Like, remember when they used to do all the lectures on Black history and ancient Black history?
Yeah.
That's her. That's where she's going. That's where her art really explores. So that's somebody that we should see. You can hop in an Uber and go up there and see her. You don't have to just stay on the beach or stay in Wynwood. You can go to 10 North up in Opelika. They have all international artists. They actually have people who go around the world buying art.
Yeah.
Not only from locals, but from folks all across the diaspora. Go see them. It's not going to kill you. It's like, what, a $30 ride? You good. If you flew down here and stayed during this time and bought that ticket, you can afford an Uber.
Yeah.
So go. You can go to the Hampton House. You can come here to Liberty City. Nobody's going to get you. You're going to be just fine. If you walk through the Bronx, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be okay.
Yeah, if you walk through the Bronx, I don't know why
you just fine. Yeah, if you can do that, you can do this. If you can walk through Brooklyn, if you can hop on a subway, you can come over here. Nobody's going to get you. Ain't no boogeyman.
What show, exhibit, collection, or just artist that you most excited about seeing this go round?
I am always interested in Prism. I'm a big supporter of Mikhail Solomon and what she's doing and how she's been doing this since 2014, I think. So just seeing her growth and, the fact that she kind of did this without a whole heck of a lot of support. I'm always, interested in seeing what she's doing. I'm interested in going to Art Basel this year because they have a few galleries that are owned by Black women, and I want to see their work. And I think what I'm really interested in seeing, because I've already seen the show at Mocha, I probably want to go see Charles Gaines at ICA.
Yeah.
And then also go to Little Haiti Cultural Center, which was also a fan favorite. That's a lot of the curators who come from outside like to go there and see what they're doing. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Can you explain the differences between an art fair and an art exhibition? Because I think, now that I'm getting into it, I'm trying to figure out the differences between all of them.
So a fair is typically where you go to buy art.
Okay.
So if you're going to Art Basel, your goal is to buy art either at that time or a lot of that work has already been sold before you get to see it.
Yeah.
They already have their audience, they already have their customers, they've already sent them PDFs, they know what's going to be there, they've already bought it. I don't even know why they bring it, to be honest with you, but it's already been sold. Some of it might be sold during VIP or maybe even a little bit earlier than that when they get here. So a fair is to sell work. An exhibition is to show work. So you're not selling it, you just want to show the work. You just hang it up on the wall, maybe have a reception, a talk, a party to go with it to make an experience, but an exhibit, you're just showing work.
And if I wanted to, like me, I'm taking my time getting into art. I got a few pieces. I ain't got a lot.
Okay.
I got a few pieces from a few art. What do you look at when you want to buy art? Something you may want to buy. What stands out to you the most?
So.
What are the different factors for you?
So I have a different interest. I like experimental work. I like abstract work. Those are my two favorites. So I look for anything that makes me think. Anything that looks out of the ordinary, or even things that are bizarre. I forgot her name, but there's this artist I think she's out of Los Angeles. She paints plus size women. And she paints them with like all the cellulite, all the dimples, everything on the body, but like they're wearing bikinis and they're wearing little baby dolls. And it really talks about body positivity, and they're Black women. You know, Black women's body is always controversial because either it is highly sexualized or it is deemed unattractive. And I like that she kind of took what was deemed unattractive and still kind of sexualize it in a way, but not that I like that it's sexualized, but that it's up there, you know, we're showing that you can be confident in who you are, because these women are not women who are considered like a beauty standard. Like these are, you know, young women who have on like really long nails and the big hairdos and things that we can say, you know, or consider, you know, hood or ghetto, but she brings beauty to that. And I love that. You know, something that makes me think about the world differently. Sign me up.
Okay. What new artists should we be like looking for?
That's really hard.
Because I know it's a lot, but what new artists like that you've been that's been in your view for the?
So locally, there's a photographer named Francisco Masso. He's an Afro-Cuban photographer. I had a great conversation with him, and he talks about being a Black man in Cuba. So I had a chance to go to Cuba last year, and you know, one of the reasons why Black folks go to Cuba is because we think, oh, it's a Black country and we can be comfortable there and like all those things. And it's true. You know, we go there, we're Americans. You know, it's pretty easy for us. But his story of Cuba is a very different story. And it's actually an unexpected story. So he talks about police brutality against Black folk in Cuba. We're not used to hearing that.
Yeah.
And so he's somebody that I think is someone to watch. Honestly, locally, I think you should pay attention to local artists. So we have Mark Delmont, who is here. I recommended you should like bring him on as a guest. You should be paying attention to him. There's a lot of young Black artists that are here that we should be paying attention to. I think that if you are in South Florida and you're a beginning collector, I think local is the way to go. To me, it makes more sense. I think that, you know, it's not only supporting the community and supporting the local economy, but that's how artists get big. Like I remember hearing about, Pitbull and how Pitbull started. Like he used to do all these little like poetry spots, you know, and I think some people used to say like he wasn't even that like good, but he didn't care. He didn't stop. And he was at all the poetry spots. I don't know if he was, I think he's great now, but I'm just saying what somebody told me. But he went to all the poetry spots and he kept working and he kept trying. And look at him. Now he's Mr. International.
Yeah.
You can't touch him. You can't look at him. But all of that local support, like helped him get to where he needs to go.
Yeah, because I remember when Pitbull first came out and he was rapping and I was like, oh yeah, Chico got it.
I never heard him until he came out. So of course to me, like, you know, you have an album out, you're like, great, right? But what I didn't know was that there was somebody I knew who was like, yeah, they were like, he used to do all the little local spots here. I was like, what? They were like, yeah, all the little local poetry spots that used to have a open mic or needed like help. He was there.
I mean, technically, we always talk about the intersection between rap and poetry. Now they got, I think, a category in the Grammys now for poets.
Yeah.
They get, you know, I think Aja Monet is actually nominated.
Good, because we deserve that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like it doesn't shock me. You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, when I was moving around in the music business, I would take a lot of my artists to open mics all the time.
Yes.
Because they needed exposure just with the stage presence and everything else. So, yeah.
It's an open stage, but that's important. And that continued support, because you never know who's in the room. Yeah. You never know who's paying attention. You never know who's looking. And so it's a great opportunity. Same thing with our local art scene. There's shows all over South Florida on a regular basis. I think for locals, I think you should start with local people first.
And how do we support, because, you know, art is being taken out of the schools. Art is, you know, being banned, like they banning books, they doing all these different things. So how do we support art now in the post-pandemic?
You know, support local art by going to exhibitions and supporting artists. Now, whether your school is going to do it or not, that's two different things. But, you know, talk to your school and say, we want art back in the schools. look at programs that are around the city, around the county that can provide services. We are at a space that provides services all year round, so you have a place to go. You even got vans to bring you here. You can even do some online programs. So one of the things that we use at home is called OutSchool. So I think it's outschool.com. And they have thousands of different types of classes. And they actually have like photography, they have guitar, they have drawing classes that are all online. Sometimes those classes are like $12. So you can do like, let's say for Christmas break, you may want to sign your kids up for like 2 weeks there. That may be something that works, So there are all types of options. You can find online courses, take them to the library, take them to PAM. So PAM, ICA, and MOCA do family days once a month.
So, because you're saying the acronym, PAM is Perez
The
Art.
Perez Art Museum, Miami.
And then MOCA is Museum
of Contemporary Art, North Miami. And then ICA is, I forgot, I think International Contemporary Art Miami is ICA Miami.
Okay.
So they have family programs that you can put your kids in. Sometimes it's a day. MOCA's program, I think, is year-round. So you have all types of options. And MOCA's art kids tend to do really well. A lot of the arts administrators, people who run programs here, all at some point in their youth were part of MOCA's Teen Force program.
Oh, that's dope.
So yeah, it's an excellent program. So there are options. You just have to go after them and go get them.
Let's get into the business of art, because millions have been pumped into Miami.
For this week, yes.
Yes, just for this week. So just talk about art in the context of communities and different things like that. How does art, I'm trying to think about what question I want to ask, but how is art transforming communities now?
I mean, in several ways. Aesthetically, it makes places beautiful. It also attracts a different type of clientele, different kind of buyers, different kind of customers, because now that we see a place that's creative, we see the beauty in it. And I think we see the possibilities, and that brings people here. This whole Art Week Miami is a week to make money. So it's one of two things. Either you're here trying to push some art and sell it, or you're trying to bring attention to yourself to get other opportunities. I think that's where things kind of get missed, and that's what you should be doing. If you're not selling art, you should be positioning yourself to be considered for other opportunities, the end.
As a local artist?
As a local artist. If you're not selling it, you're setting yourself up for something else, right? So, for me, one of the great things about having the magazine, even though it took a long time, now people come to me for advertising. It wasn't like that in the beginning. I was begging. There's still some people who won't buy from me, but I was begging for a long time. Now I don't have to beg as much. So it was a great platform for me. For other people, you should use it as a way to propel yourself forward. I know lots of curators who their work is seen because they like the way people kind of assemble that art together, and they get opportunities. That's what you should be looking for. Experiences are great, but if you can't monetize this to the fullest, I think that you might want to go back to the drawing board and figure out other things to do.
That's crazy.
It is. If you can't, because it's a lot of money for a week. Can you imagine having somebody ship all this type of work to you and none of it gets sold and you got to ship all of it back? And you had to pay for the spot, and you had to pay for digital ads. You had to pay for a DJ, and you had to send somebody to Publix to go grab something, but take it off that plastic plate and put it on a nicer one. All of that, and you didn't sell anything? That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
So how do you position that to say, okay, this may not have worked out for this, but this can set me up for something else?
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you may see people who are here who may want to sponsor you next year because it was a great party. Yeah. They want to be a part of it. But that's what you should be doing.
Have you had that experience with Basel? With Basel?
No, thank God. I won't do that. So my very first Art Basel event was here. There was this guy who worked in the gallery who quit right before his event started. But he didn't turn in his pink slip yet. So when he didn't get the job he thought he was going to get, he came back. But for the 2 weeks that he was gone, he was like, look, I'm leaving and I'm going to leave this to you. The artists are doing this. They're doing this. I need you to set up the reception, send everything out, and then we can go on with the event. So I was like, okay. And so that's what I did. I set everything up. We had a great party, great food. And I remember, of course, because people talk about Liberty City and Opelika and all these areas they consider like poor in the hood, and why would anybody go there? People thought nobody would show up. Nobody local, none of the folks who talk about that they love the arts, none of them came. But you know who came?
Who?
All them folks from Miami Beach.
Mm.
None of them looked like me.
But they came.
They showed up. One guy I'll never forget came in a convertible, top down, no care in the world, like, I remember pants, no socks, little shirt, white shirt. You know how like people have like no fear and they just get out just like him. Turns in the parking lot, doesn't care, parks his car right up front, illegal, parks right up here in the fire lane. He gets out, he walks around, he's having pate, he's having wine, he talks to people. He was here for like 2 hours and leaves at night in the dark going down 62nd Street. He was not afraid, he did not care. Tell somebody local to come do that. See what happens, see what their response is.
Liberty,
and yes, I'm talking
just
to
trying to
whoever's
get people
offended.
to come to Liberty City is a mission in itself.
Yes.
You know, and I noticed that for the guy you did curate, a lot of the stuff is not in Miami Beach. It's in our neighborhoods.
Yes.
Like Little Haiti, Boca, what else? African Heritage Cultural Arts Center here.
10 North up in Opelika, Hampton House.
I'm so used to saying Opelika.
Opelika, yeah. They
but
changed
now
their
I'm
name.
saying 10 North.
Yeah.
But talk about that. Like, how do these organizations invest in art? How could you invest in art?
So they're all different. 10 North actually has an art foundation.
Okay.
And they were gifted an art collection before the pandemic, I think. I think it was in 2019. Don't quote me on that, but they were gifted an art collection. And we had a meeting, just a few of us board members, because now they had this collection. They were like, okay, now what do we do with this? And it was by artists from all over the African continent. There was a gentleman who used to travel, I think, in some, like the Peace Corps or something, and he just kept going back. And he would go back and he would collect art from all the different countries that he visited. So after he did that, he passed away, he left this art collection to them. And they're like, what do we do? And I was like, we monetize it. You know, you lend this out to people who may be interested in it. But instead of just stopping at that collection, they started to build on it. And so now they're buying art. So some of it has been things that they've bought, you know, many years ago that they invested in. Like T. Elliott Manza is a part of their collection. Yanira Collado was a part of their collection. She's really dope. She's somebody we should pay attention to too, as well. Yanira Collado, Yanira. Last name is Collado, Colado. She's really good. So they have local artists that they purchase, but then they also started buying works from African-American artists here in the States. They, you know, go over to the continent and buy works. They bought several collections from the continent. They're buying works in Europe. They are building an art collection. And it is quite a sight to see two Black men traveling the world, bringing home art to, of all places, Opelika, Florida, a place that, you know, unfortunately, some of our friends are afraid to go to. But in a few years, that whole community is going to look a little bit different. But it won't look different in that we won't be a part of it. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a real
and
big deal.
I really like seeing that. So, you know, that's how they're investing, you know, as well as doing other things. They invested in, you know, some filmmakers who've done really well and continuing to work with them in creating content. They've been really serious about being a part of the arts. African Heritage is a no-brainer. The Hampton House has, like, on two fronts, they're kind of new to this, but also they've always had an archive of, you know, all the people who've come through, all the things they've done. And that was not just an archive of the Hampton House. That was an archive of Black Miami, you know, that was really taken seriously. That's, you know, those are really great investments in the local art world that we need to pay attention to and support.
Because I think about Black art and I'm just like, I always think about the impact. How can we support the local artists? Like I used to always go and be like, let me see a piece I like. Let me just grab the piece I like. That's me supporting.
Yes.
But it's other ways that you can support.
It's other ways, and it's more than that. So yes, definitely buy the art, but also, you know, show the art in your home. show the art on social media, which you purchased, let them know about them, keep a relationship with them, help them do other things. So with some, I think, was it Oprah, I think, did this? And, oh gosh, Morgan Freeman was another one. They have artist residencies at their homes where artists would be at their homes and will be able to create work for free room and board, all their materials, and they'll be able to create works there. Sometimes specifically for the person that they're with, sometimes works that they can take with them and sell a little bit later. So, that's the way to do it. Find out if they want to go be a part of Art Basel, or if they want to get into a particular gallery, or if they want to do their own show, and support them by doing their projects. There's a local collector here who does that with an older gentleman. He laid out the foundation for him to get all the things that he needed. He wanted to do a show, and so he gave him everything. He gave him money for production, a space. Yeah. All of those things are important. So just beyond buying a piece or two is really helping an artist fly. That's a big deal. That's really important.
Yeah, because Roots, we used to do, we still do it, but I think we've taken a step back this year. But we would host, I guess you would call it an exhibit.
Okay.
Exhibition, but we used to be selling stuff in there. So we gonna get to this money. You know what I'm saying? We'll get to this money. So yeah, we used to have Christian Downing. I think that's Christian Downing coming from Baton Rouge. Okay. We would bring her in. She would show a lot of her art because she has like collections and stuff, like some dope art that I seen. It was in there the last time. Yeah. Was there. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we've been. And
that's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, trying to support. You know what I'm saying? I got 2 pieces in my house, 3 pieces. One of them isn't hung up. You know what I want? That I'm KC gonna kill me. But one that I want that I spend the money on is Robert McKnight sculptures. He had a couple of them here.
Why don't you go get one? Why don't you go buy one?
Yeah. Now the one I want is some money. It's like Adonis pieces now,
You should go talk to him.
I'm gonna go talk to him.
Go talk to him.
No, because the one
Robert McKnight is probably one of the most slept on local artists here. Yeah. Y'all really sleeping. And shout out to all the young people, y'all in your 20s, 30s, 40s. Y'all go out here, you got all this opportunity, all this access. I love it. But really, Robert McKnight is the one that you have missed. And what he doesn't like doing, I don't think as much, because I think it comes easy to him, is his abstract work. Yeah. That's my personal favorite. You really sleeping on him. And I know that he's gotten some awards and some opportunities, but he really should have more. Yeah, we should hear more about him than we do.
He was the first person to make me want to buy art. Yes. It's a sculpture, it's like a heart. Yes. And I seen the story. I got it. Yes. That was the first piece I looked at and I actually got it. I was like, oh, I want this. Yes. And so I think he still got it. I'm gonna have to go talk to him. I didn't know if he sold it or not, but he still put it on the website, so he must still have it.
Maybe. You need to talk to him.
Yeah, I go talk to him. Yeah. And then, of course, growing up here at the center, you got Bayunga, we used to do Calabash. Yes. I remember we used to do these long, big. Yes. The size of, like, literally from the catwalk down here, like, he used to do these big murals. Yes. So that was my introduction to art in general. Yep. You know what I mean?
And the fair they used to do, well, it wasn't a fair, but it was a huge exhibition that they used to do every year in the gallery. Everybody was bringing in pieces. I think it was almost like from the catwalk all the way down the wall. It was so much work. So, I remember those days. They were good days. And that's when Black artists here really worked on the fringe. Yeah. So, like, for all the young bucks who out there getting it now, that's good for them because it wasn't like that before. Nobody outside of Liberty City was really checking for Black artists. Even when we had Black galleries here, they weren't checking for them either. So this was like one of the places that you had to show. This is what you had to do.
What's the best way? This will be my last question and we'll wrap up. What's the best way for an artist to get into like the Basel scene circuit?
So to get into actual Art Basel itself requires you to be a part of one of those blue chip galleries that are in there. That's some hard work. That's a 20-year, sometimes a 20-year try. There's some young people in there too, but that's a lot of work. just to let you know. And you need to probably need to be in the right place in the right time. Though there are 2 Miami galleries that show there all the time, but that takes some work. But for any of these outside of the major fairs like Untitled and Art Basel, you can probably get into anybody's show if your work is good. So the Little Haiti Center might be a great place to start. You know, that's highly curated as well, but, you know, it's a start you can try. You may talk to any of the local spaces here and try to get a space, try to get something here at African Heritage. There's so many pop-ups around the county that there's almost unlimited opportunity. You just have to find one.
Yeah.
So you can look at the guide, for example. Right now, you can stalk Instagram Basel 2023, and you should see what everybody is doing at this point. And just remember for 2024 so that you can go there and do that.
For people who want to know where to find you, where can they find you?
SugarCaneMag.com, Sugarcane Magazine on Instagram, and then Melissa Hunter Davis on Instagram as well.
Oh, you got both now. Fancy.
I always did. I just didn't
update it.
Yeah, but I update my stories. That's where you get to get a look at Fun Melissa.
You didn't plug the podcast.
I didn't, but you're right. Oh my God, forgive me. So you can also go to Apple Podcasts. I like Apple Podcasts. We just talked about how I'm an Apple girl. And you can look for This Week in Caribbean Art. We have fabulous people on our podcast, I must say. Yeah. We had a good time. You got a chance to really listen to the best of the best in the art world. I learned
a lot while I'm actually listening and editing the podcast all the time. Because the differences between it was I think I asked you this one time because it was in the middle. I'm like, there's a difference between a fair and an exhibit. It hit me. A gallery, a collection. And I was just like, I've been really on the surface with this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Anybody can have a collection. Yeah. Most people do. Most people that I know who started an art collection used to collect comic books when they were kids.
Really?
All of them.
Yeah, I didn't collect comic books.
Yeah, all the people who loved, either they became artists or they became art collectors.
Yeah, I think now I'm more of I like Black art. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to stray away from it. I like stuff that tells a story.
Yes.
So, I got 2 pieces from Rob Regis.
Okay.
He's I don't want to say he's a local artist, but he is local. I think he's local to South Florida. I forget where exactly. I want to say West Palm, too.
Okay.
And I also supported, I want to say Jay Flew, I think is his name, with Trill Tunes.
Yes. Okay.
And so I bought, he has a book that he made of all the cartoon figures that he had. So I got that book signed by him. Aww. I got a couple other pieces. Raheem, I don't know if you know Raheem. He usually does this stuff on Instagram, but he worked with Barton and Ashley with Muse a lot. Okay. But it was a piece that he did of the piece I have is of Fela Kuti.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a big piece that I'm still trying to figure out where I'm gonna put it, but I took it. I was like, I need that.
I love that.
So he has it was basically Muse. Remember that year that Jazz in the Gardens? They did Jazz in the Gardens.
Yes, and they had Muse was there and had a platform.
Raheem had a piece.
Okay.
That had it was a girl. It was like a tribal African girl, and she had the peace sign on her face, and I loved the piece. I wanted it so bad. I would have went broke. I had money at that time. I was like, I'm going broke. And but they told me they had sold it. I was so mad.
Oh.
It had just sold when I had actually inquired about it.
You have to, when you see something, you have to get it. So there was something I wanted at Prism. I said, I want it. And she was like, oh yeah, just go online and pay it. Because I think I was literally going to catch a flight. And I didn't get to the airport before somebody came in and took that piece. Oh. I was really upset.
You know what I want to ask you about? Mm-hmm. Art and technology.
Yes.
What are some things you're seeing with art and technology?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't pay attention to that for several reasons. Wow. When the whole NFT? Bitcoin NFT thing came out, I was really watching. There's an NFT, Black NFT art actually is based out of, I think, Miramar. She might be based out of Miramar, definitely South Florida. Yeah. And she has some really good NFT artists. However, I don't see, right now, it's too early for us to see.
Yeah.
I think it's too early for us to see anything that's good. And a lot of it is something that your good friend Samaya said. A lot of it is just graphic art
Yeah.
that, you know, they
embellished
sometimes.
Yeah.
Or they animate. And so right now, I'm not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying like heavy attention to it, not anymore. Especially now that like you've had all these like, you know, currency issues.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, let's like wait for them to like get some regulations and get this together because right now it's a no for me.
Now, and the only reason I was asking that is because, you know, we're in a new age now where you got subscription-based followers and different things. And like, do you see artists using those type of different models?
Oh, God, yes. Absolutely. You know, having, what is that called? Patreon. Having Patreons, I think has worked really well for a lot of people. Doing small runs and having, you know, things on their website for like a small run, like, okay, we got, you know, 50 prints that are going to be available. I'm dropping it, you know, 5 o'clock. You got an hour to get this before I take it all down. I think that a lot of people have used technology to help sell. I don't really pay attention to the folks who are doing NFTs necessarily anymore. There's a certain group of them that I do watch, and Black NFT, I think, has done a good job finding really good people. I think her artist ended up doing something for the Oscars in 2021, I believe. Yeah. She got him like on the Oscars for 2021.
Dope.
But on the other side, yes, I think, as a matter of fact, I think that a lot of artists are getting opportunities precisely because of social media and technology. Who would never have this following if not for this. Because they would not be able to get in front of people. A lot of galleries probably wouldn't have accepted their work anyway. A lot of them get into galleries and, you know, are looking for hot Black artists, young hot Black artists they can sell cheap and fast because that's kind of like the thing that we're still in now.
Yeah.
But they got that precisely because of Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, Instagram is still the hot place to find them. I still tell people don't get caught up in Instagram because sometimes it photographs better than it actually looks in real life.
Yeah.
But, you know, people want to save $1, so that's what they do.
I mean, but at the same time, like, I remember a couple years ago we was talking about, you know, the artists and stuff and like the copycats.
Yes.
So what's your view on that? Like, because Rod Wave, only reason I'm asking you this is because Rod Wave has been in the news lately for copying, like actually singing songs. Like, it may be him singing a song, but it's Boosie lyrics or it's Jay-Z whole lyrics, like the whole song.
So we actually have a story about that.
I know you can't. You can't.
We have a story about that online. So that is one of my issues. I get that we are all inspired. We are. Yeah. You know, like I remember in high school, my theater teacher telling me that there's only like 5 stories in the whole world and everything else is just those 5 stories regurgitated from a different side. So I get that we are inspired by other people and that, you know, it happens. But I always say, find your own lane. You know, when you find what works for you, that's a lot better than trying to copy other people's work. Like, there's one guy I know that every time people see his work, they know exactly who he's inspired by, but it's not even a matter of inspired by anymore. Like, it looks like he just tries to do a variation of this one person's work, and it's really unfortunate, you know, because the question is, like, why aren't you taking time to really develop yourself? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a sore spot with me. I don't, and especially also because a lot of artists work hard. So we had a story about that. There was a young woman who actually sued someone because she felt like her work had been copied. And at the end of the day, what was so painful was watching her do her last Instagram live before she closed her account and made it private, because she was like, I can't even share my work because I know that that's how people are getting a chance to see it.
Get a chance to see it, yeah.
And they have all this access to it, so they have all this time to perfect what they see. Mm-hmm. And watching her do that last live was so sad because you could tell she was really hurt. And she was trying to be strong, you know, keep it gangster, but she was really in pain about this. And especially because she will likely lose that case.
Yeah.
But she did it anyway to stand up for herself.
But talk about that, because I feel like there's a limit with all that stuff too. You know what I mean? Like,
in some cases, yes. I don't think that I'm not good with copyright law and fair use and all of that, but there's a limit to what you can do in certain arenas. But visual art can be very different. It can be very different because it happens all the time. Like when you go to foreign countries and you buy art off the side of the road, that's like all a copy of somebody who made this like probably in the 40s.
yeah.
And that's what you're buying. They just recreating that same piece. So I'm not sure what's going to happen to her. There are protections for fair use that are out there. There are things that you can do. You know, if it's not an exact copy, you know what you're going to do. But, you know, I hope for the best for her. But I do encourage artists that, yes, I understand that there are people who do, you know, really good work and you want to be just like them. But the goal is to be like yourself because that's what they did. They decided to be like themselves and create something that was new and fresh. Risk-taking, that's what the art is all about.
Risk-taking.
Yeah.
All right, we'll close on that. We'll close on the risk-taking.
All right.
Yeah.
This was good.
Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Is my mic still on?
It is wonderful that the little boy that I met when he was 10 years old
I know, right?
is now interviewing me on his podcast. And he still looks the same, Carla.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to be.
He used to wear glasses, and he was really preppy.
Yeah.
He used to wear, like, stripes.
Yeah, that was because that was what was in the bag. Hand-me-downs. Whatever was in the bag, dog. So, for everybody who want to know, you can catch us, Trapping Ain't Dead Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, trappingaintdead.com.
Yes.
Go log in. Join the forum.
Join the forum.
Join the forum discussion. You can catch the podcast on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. So, check us out. I'm out.
Good night, guys.